into this flow.
So this is Bellular Gaming Video. Why FFXIV's jobs are more fun than they have any right to be.
It's so easily. It's almost like this was what you were born
I
to
love
do.
this fight. It's
There's
so
just
good.
something indescribable about it, like a kind of magic playing your job. Now, don't just take my word for it. FF14 jobs actually feel so good to play that one of the most notoriously intense types of gamer of all time, they've found a second home in it. And those are fighting game players.
What?
The pandemic was absolutely a nuke dropped on that genre.
What?
Because one, net code largely sucks. Getting there, but it still sucks. And offline events were
I didn't know
obviously
this.
impossible.
Is this
As
true?
a result, the siren song of FF14 spread really strong throughout the community. So much so that it's actually now called the FGC Retirement Home. There was this major tournament CEO which hired out like a full room just for people to play FF14 on the side when they weren't actually playing fighting games.
What?
Is that confusing?
How did I miss all of this? Are you crazy? What?
You're not alone. How do people who love fighting games, these...
Oh no, you can't hear it. Okay. I'm gonna go back here a little bit.
which hired out like a full room just for people to play FF14 on the side when they weren't actually playing fighting games.
Okay.
If that confuses you,
Is that fine? Is the volume fine?
you're not alone. How do people who love fighting games, these intense PvP games that need, tons of knowledge and split-second reactions, how do those players fall in love with a PvE-focused tab target?
Yeah, it
MMO?
seems very
I couldn't
different.
wrap my head around it either.
Yeah.
Was it the self-improvement loop of, learning your job, learning fights, parsing, stuff like that? Or was it just an overlap between, fighting games, or a lot of them are Japanese? Is that just the overlap? But then I noticed there's a different overlap.
Okay.
Final Fantasy XIV, the FGC, and rhythm games. And that's what it hit me.
Oh.
It's actually the way you press your buttons.
Oh,
Bear with me,
right.
So
Okay.
you hear this complaint from new players all the time in FF14. The 2.5 second GCD. It's slow, it's boring. With just those GCDs, you end up pressing like 24 buttons a minute maximum, and that's really, really slow. Over in World of Warcraft, that's like 1.5 second by default, so that's like 40 buttons.
Honestly, this is such a better way to describe this than the shit that I did, man. Remember? Some of you might remember the, it was like I had some ice cream and I took a lick of ice cream and then I also had some nuts on the side and I'm like, oh, well, and I timed it. I'm like, okay, here's the time of a GCD. And it's like, but I ate a nut in between. I'm like, well, you can eat one nut in between a lick, or you can do two nuts between licks. And this was like, looking back on it, horrible way to explain this to somebody. It's very it's like, this is much better. This is much better.
But it doesn't even really matter. As anyone who's played a rhythm game on easy will know, just pressing a button to a simple beat isn't exactly fun. Just
get out the ice cream and the nuts,
boring,
man.
right? Now that does get better when you're
helps
pressing different buttons. You're going, instead of duh, 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 you're going duh, duh, duh.
Oh
And
my
for
God.
context, in FF14, this is what this kind of looks and sounds like. Every new player runs into the problem of GCD clipping, right? Because the game never explains, hey, here's what the OGCD animation lock is. Here's how your latency plays into that. Maybe the devs don't even fully understand it. But because you have to fit your OGCDs in there without clipping.
Oh, that's nice. Junebob is making video like that. I didn't know. So Junebob makes a lot of really good videos that show how mechanics work in raid fights in like a very clear way, like very clear and good editing. And this is actually very helpful too if you're new, understanding how these things.
Didn't fully understand it. But because you have to fit your OGCDs in there without clipping, you can't just mash. And that's what players playing World of Warcraft will do. They'll just go, oh, well, I can press these at any time. But that's not true. You actually need to develop a sense of rhythm to it. It's like depending on your keybinds, it can even feel a little bit like one or two fingers. In my case, this one would be keeping the GCD rhythm, while the other finger, in this case my index finger, comes in and hits the OGCDs. So it feels a little bit more like you're playing an instrument.
Yeah.
As a Dragoon, for example...
Actually, one of the best players that I've ever met, maybe the best player that I've ever met in this game, and I hope she's not watching right now, because... I'm gonna be complimenting her. She is also an amazing piano player. like absolutely insanely good piano player, and she's extremely good at playing monk as well. And you can see like the correlation there, why those things go together. Like,
as opposed to the simple melee
those
combo,
skills have some overlap.
Dragoon kind of looks a little bit more generally like this. Now, I don't know anything about music, but I was trying to figure out how to explain this, right? And I accidentally found the perfect example. I was looking at a video of a 24 beats per minute metronome, and that had a comment that explained everything.
It says the MMO has 2.5 second global cooldown on primary abilities, 24 beats per minute. GCDs can be expressed as quarter notes. OGCD secondary abilities can be expressed as eighth notes or eighth note triplets. Yeah.
4 beats per minute is, 2.5 second GCD. That's how many buttons you're pressing. And this comment said, GCDs can be expressed as quarter notes, and then OGCDs can be expressed as eighth notes or eighth note triplets at that same tempo. So for comparison, here's what those look and sound like, and you may be able to see it kind of come together here. So whenever you're weaving, you're actually kind of playing the game at 48 beats per minute for a second, and if you double weave, which happens, most openers, cool the windows, stuff like that, you're actually playing a little bit closer to 72 beats per minute. And then, with SAM buffs or ninja buffs or skill speed, that goes up to like somewhere around 84, I think. But the point isn't actually like the speed. It's the fact that it changes. You've got this little mini game.
You can only put 2 in between
which is just
GCD.
Changing rhythm. You're not playing, you're not playing the same beat. You're not sitting at a drum kit doing the same thing forever. You're actually changing your own tempo occasionally. And that means that like every job, every little, every moment, you've got a different rhythm. You're playing something different. Obviously, it's the same over time, but it's just musicality. It's music.
I think that's one of the reasons why, for me, Dancer is the most fun and like engaging job in the game. Now, there's a lot of different reasons that factor into that, why I love Dancer so much, but this is one of them. Is that, and this is true probably for Bard as well, or even Machinists, like jobs that don't have casting time. Like it does feel like very percussive. Like you have your GCD ability, and actually the Dancer's abilities sound a lot like the little percussive sounds that he made a second ago. Like it feels like a rhythm game that you're dancing to. You're dancing to this beat that you're creating with your rotation.
Musicality, physicality, and rhythm. It's stuff that like makes games more fun to play. My favorite example of all of this is actually the first maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds of playing Ninja. It's fast, it has double weaves, it has some single weaves, it has a late weave with trick, and then there's ninjutsu, which is an absolute ton of fun. So, to compare, right? Here, I'll throw on screen just some Ninja gameplay, like tracked by input stuff.
Okay.
And I'll try to compare that to other rhythm games or other fighting games, just to see how similar they might be. And I have a funny feeling they're a lot more similar than
This is such a fascinating video because
now, I did say that
I did not know at all about the fighting game players coming over to Final Fantasy 14. Like this has completely gone under my radar. Did you guys hear about this? Oh, I'm sure some of you actually are some of those people that came over from fighting games.
Combat system scuffed, and that's how it's happened. And that obviously has its downsides, like, Australia, Latin America. Sorry, you can't play Machinist because of ping. Sorry, that's just how it is. But the developers actually do lean into this because specific jobs have these unique elements.
There's some things that they could probably do to alleviate those problems, honestly. There's some things that they could do to improve Final Fantasy 14's netcode so there's not such serious ping issues for people.
And unique timings that actually make pressing buttons just cool. My favorite again is the mudras for Ninja, because you either hit 2 or 3 buttons at a quick rhythm in like a specific order and then a different button. So for me that's like E, R, F, Q for Suiton, or E, R for Ragdoll. It's actually just a little bit of like, it's just a tiny mini game, but it is more fun than just pressing the same button again. Gunbreaker's kind of similar too with continuation, because obviously you hit your combo, which is just the one button, but then you add the continuation button, which is this like shorter little button. So you actually have this like 1 2 1 2 1 2 rhythm going on, and that's just a nice little change up from your usual combo. And then there's obviously Machinist, where you've got Hypercharge, which pulls you down to a 1.5 second GCD, and that's just way faster. But you're also alternate weaving, Ricochet and Gauss Round, so you've got this kind of like 1 2 1 3 1 2 1 3 going on, and it just feels really fun to play. The last example then here is Sage, right? It's got Eucrasia, which only has a 1 second.
One thing I would add to that is obviously from my experience with Dancer. One thing I really liked about Dancer too is that you, whenever you do your dance, it changes up the rhythm a little bit because you do like. It's much faster whenever you're doing your steps and then you're back into the normal rhythm of your rotation as well. Okay, well, he really needs to try Dancer. Like seriously, needs to play it.
Cast.
I saw the Bard main in the
that
chat.
That turns your
saying,
healing into this quick little 1-2. So you're healing. There's a heal. There's a heal. There's a heal. Oh, there's a Eucrasia heal. And that's just really fun. Same with Red Mage's double cast. Now it's kind of, it's just all in GCD, but the 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 of like instant cast and full cast is really, really fun. And the same with the melee combo in Red Mage, because that's got the faster GCD. So, you're leaning
true.
back and
yeah,
going,
that's
okay,
right.
Cast instant.
So there are some
cast.
things that do change up the rhythm, so to speak, every now and then on different jobs.
But then the melee combo goes in and you're in and you're going, and then back out.
What was that?
And it just makes that,
oh my God.
It's not about, what you're doing, like in game. It's about how you, the player, are pressing buttons. And that's what makes it, I think, just so much more fun. Basically, I think the point is that the job design team actually know that the physicality and the rhythm of pressing buttons is super important to making what's otherwise slow action bar based combat actually fun, and they kind of nail it. But again, that's only one small part, because jobs aren't just the gameplay, jobs are everything else that's attached. Video games are definitely more than just pressing buttons, otherwise we wouldn't have such a big industry. And FF14 also nails almost every other part, right? The visual effects and the sound work for jobs is insanely good. There are a few things as
One thing I would want to say here too, though, is that like you kind of need to learn a little bit about how your job is supposed to work to be able to appreciate the flow and the rotation of your job, because I played Final Fantasy 14 for a while, not really fully understanding that, and just sort of, coming from World of Warcraft, just sort of pressing buttons and not understanding weaving, not understanding when to do my OGCDs, not understanding I shouldn't cast 3 OGCDs in a row. I didn't know, what does it mean to clip my GCD? I don't know any of that stuff. And it wasn't until after I spent some time trying to learn, like, oh, how is this actually supposed to be played? Like, what are the general rules of getting everything in the right order so I can appreciate that rhythm? That's something that the game does a really shitty job of teaching new players. Oh, I mean, it doesn't teach you that at all. Like, I had to go onto the Balance Discord and learn about my job to figure all that stuff out. And it's kind of sad because I feel like there might be a lot of players who do miss out on this and, like, fully getting the sense of the rhythm and how it's supposed to feel when you play the job.
Genuinely badass as a warrior is pressing in a release and then just getting to pump Felcleaves into an enemy. That grinding sound, I can hear it right now. The grinding sound, that massive arcing swing you do. Even if you're like a smaller character like a Tina or a Lala or something, you can like almost physically feel the weight of the axe. And then
it's funny that he says the weight of the axe, because in the Making of Shadowbringers YouTube series, that the official one from Square Enix, they made a YouTube series called The Making of Shadowbringers, and in it they talked about the sound design for every job being unique, and how with Dancer they tried to make it more percussive sounds, and for Warrior they tried to make every sound effect that Warrior does sound heavy. They tried to make the axe sound heavy. So it's funny that he says specifically that is exactly what they were going for. I think for Gunbreaker they were trying to go with like explosives. Like, one day you should log into the game, turn off the other music and other things, and only listen to the sound effects from your job, and you will finally notice that like they all have a completely unique sound profile that ties to the identity of that job.
As an example, stuff like the Moon Slash or the AI Jutsu stuff, it just anyone who thinks Virgil, Sam, or like Raiden are the pinnacle of cool will also love Samurai, and I'm definitely one of them.
Like, I love how happy he is talking about this. It's so nice.
The smirk, the smug smirk, the exaggerated.
This is great.
It's so easy to feel as a black mage that you are smarter, you are better, you are just so much better, more interesting than whoever the hell you just blew off the face of the map. It's like Yoshi P's character that he plays on live stuff with, Yoshi P Sampo. The adventure plate is this evil little Lalafell with this grin, and that's how black mage feels.
Yeah.
And I think those are the details that give your job and your, like, by proxy, your character, because your character is that job. There's so much added flair.
I mean,
every single job has that unique identity, which carries over to you. Now, if you haven't done this before, I actually recommend picking your favorite job and going into G-pose with your combat animations. Did you know that
actually,
a samurai doesn't actually unsheath during Higanbana? They put their katana into their sheath, and they don't move it, but they still apply the dot. And that's the kind of
they do move it. It's just happening so fast that you can't see, man. Like, I mean, haven't you watched some anime? That's how it's just so quick. It looked like nothing happened, but suddenly somebody's head's rolling across the floor.
Fantastic. Same with lightning striking their sword during Iki Shoten. You can hear it, you can see it, but because it's an off GCD, it's kind of hard to notice in combat. But in G-pose, you can look at it, and it's just cool. That's it. It's literally just cool. Even over on sound design, it's so good that I don't know if this is real, right? Okay. But I was told the story of someone who claimed to know when another player was doing the rotation wrong.
What? Based
just on hearing their attacks. They would like listen to the sound effects of party members, and they would be able to tell when someone did something wrong because the order was off. And I actually played a little bit with sound effects muted for a while just to see how much worse it was. And it's worse, right? But it's also harder to play. So I guess like you're not maybe paying attention, but
dude, imagine being in a group with somebody like that who's listening to the sounds of your attacks so that he can tell whenever you press the wrong button in your rotation, dude. That sounds horrible. Like, it's like they've ascended beyond using ACT at this point. It's like, oh, okay, I see. Third-party add-ons not allowed. The mod's not allowed. No problem. We have this Galaxy Brain guy who was like, I don't need to calculate your damage because I can listen and hear every single sound effect from every single attack that's happening from every single person on the raid, and also the sounds of the boss's attacks all at the same time, and I can calculate in my head if you did it right or if you didn't do it right. And I'll know. Like, imagine having the sound check for your audition, for your rating static.
All of that feedback of the visuals and the sounds, they all really do matter.
You said use third-party add-on? I am the third party.
But jobs aren't just gameplay and visuals and sound and stuff like that. There's
Sounds
one last
great.
part that I
Sounds
think
great.
is extremely key. And it actually delves a little bit into FF's history. Do you ever play a job and you just know immediately
we have a legend. A legend was born.
Most people have that main job. The one that just like clicks in your brain. Like the perfect kind of,
yes,
this hole was made for me kind of thing. And for me, that's Ninja. I've yet to play a job I dislike, but Ninja just sings to me in every way. And then a friend of mine, he loves Samurai to the point it's actually a little bit concerning, while another one loves Warrior. And it's kind of hard to explain this in depth because it comes down to so many different little factors.
I love Reaper
and I think
and
the jobs
Dancer
quickly become more than the sum of their parts overall.
Yeah.
It's like the walk and run animations, a little dash on Ninja, the unique style of combat with Warrior swinging like crazy, the genuinely iconic artifact gear, like the level 89 red mage stuff.
Bun boy.
And then the characterization.
Wait a minute. Is that a... Oh, shit. Look, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to...
You go through during
I'm not saying
quests.
anything.
The secret sauce to FF14's jobs is that unmistakable and unique identity that they've built up over the past 10 years. Obviously, it relies on the history of FF as well, because, all the jobs are from FF. Ninja, straight up from FF3. Sage, FF3, Super Mage, a bit different, of course.
It was photoshopped on.
Of course, now that they use laser guns, but all of those jobs are there's so much history. Final Fantasy Tactics A2, even the dress spheres in 10-2, kind of the first time I saw Pain in that Dark Knight stance, I was like, yeah, that is, for lack of a better word, soul. Oh, and for what it's worth, over in Monster Hunter, the three of us I mentioned, we all main the same weapons as our FF14 jobs, so once that job identity gets in there, it's stuck.
Does Monster Hunter World have chakrams like Dancer does? Because I could never really get into that game, but then again, I didn't notice any chakrams.
So be a little bit careful. Now, we've made it this far, okay?
Okay, maybe that explains it, dude.
Come now to how the game is actually designed as a set of gameplay interactions. And it's the part with the least to say. Everything is kind of a little bit simple, but also satisfying. You know, in terms of the difficulty, it's about peaks and valleys with like the big sweat coming in with 2-minute cooldowns, and then your like maintenance combos being just, you know,
big sweat.
I'm gonna press some combos.
Man, I got that going all the time, man.
I'm gonna pay attention to what's going on and get ready for my next big phase. The design effort seems to be a lot less about what you can do to enemies, you know, no CC, slow, stuff like that. And it's a lot more about what your character themselves is actually doing, which is kind of, I guess, how FF usually works anyway. It's stuff like, you know, the monk trying to build up the chakras and then open their, like, lunar and solar nadi. The red mages trying to, like, balance their mana, and samurai trying to, you know, get their stickers while they keep their loops synced. Stuff like that's like a little mini game you're doing yourself. But for those used to fighting games or rhythm games, it actually feels quite a lot like learning a different combo route or, you know, a map in a rhythm game. And learning those sequences, rotations, like little finger dances in a way, they turn what's otherwise this like slow combat system with, you know, jobs of like what, 40 APM on average, which is fairly slow. But it
this is the APM of
turns it into
jobs?
something satisfying.
Huh. I don't think I've ever seen that graph before, but now you see why. There's quite a lot of. Earlier today, we were talking about healers complaining about not having enough to do. So I wonder if that's part of it.
Anyway,
White Mage is down here, but Astrology is in the middle of the pack. Sage is. Oh wait, Scholars. I don't see Sage. Wait. But does this have Endwalker jobs on it? No, it's not updated. So this can't be, yeah, this isn't, like, would Summoner still be here? Yeah, this looks old because Summoner would be way lower. Yeah. And Dancer, I think, might even be, well, no, Dancer might be around the same because we got some new abilities. Okay, it doesn't matter. But no, this is pre-Endwalker, so I don't think that this is actually a very reliable graph at all because there's been some massive changes.
It's just been me musing on why FF14 jobs are so sticky and so much fun to play. It's like I felt it, right? But I didn't know why. So I sat down, I tried to figure it out, and honestly, this is the best I can come up with, honestly. I think what I have to say is
it's a good, really good way.
Is carefully crafted, so the whole experience of playing a job, if it clicks for you, if it fits you, it fits perfectly. Now, sorry to any samurais out there. I now fully understand the little sword twirl, Kaiten. I know why that meant so much to you. Now, tell me, what part of your main job stands out? Which buttons are your favorite to press? What is it about, you know, clicks with you? For me, it's the rhythm of pressing buttons on Ninja. It's the little flip jumps. And it's also Shukichi, allowing me to grade like crazy. But it also, you know, got that little tuney, edgy little teleport dash. It just works for me. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was
it's such a good video.
In any capacity kind of resonating with you.
Such a good video.
Because obviously it's nice to kind of think about why things are so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Dash. There's one answer to that question, and you will know if you play Dancer. For me, it is, there's the video link there. Okay, so for Dancer, obviously, dash, 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 dash. Hell yes, man. I got 3 dashes on it. I've got way more dashes than anyone could possibly need. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I can get out of any trouble. I can mess up and just easily dash my way out of it all the time. I love that about Dancer. You kind of feel like you have 9 lives on Dancer because of the insane mobility that is available to you. Like, if you played, the only kind of mobility, I guess, like, if you played World of Warcraft before and you loved the mobility of Demon Hunter, then I think the only thing that would even become close to that would be Dancer, honestly. But my other main, Reaper, I do love Reaper as well. And I do love turning into a demon. I do love offering my flesh as a vessel to my avatar, man. I love that. It's so, like, indicative of my personality too. I feel like I am equally both of these things, like the Reaper with the edgy, like, demon pet, and also pastel pink dancer. Like, I have two wolves side